Welcome to Emma's Top 10 and thanks for watching. In this video, we are taking a deep dive into the journey of the second president of the Republic of Cameroon and the second oldest and longest serving president in Africa, Paul Biya. Paul Biya was handpicked by the first president of Cameroon, Amadou Ahidjo, to become his replacement in 1982, and for 37 years he has been at the helm of the country. Since he became president of the Republic of Cameroon, the 86-year-old president hasn't been the most popular political figure in Africa. His rule has been marred with a lot of controversy and opposition, but due to his political intelligence, he has managed to tame every situation and remain at the helm of the country for close to 4 decades. Considering everything happening around him at this time, you might be tempted to ask, who really is Paul Biya? But before we dive into his personal life, if you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. Paul Biya's personal life. Paul Barthélemy Biya Bimvondo was born in a small locality in the south region of Cameroon called Vomeka on the 13th of February 1933. His father, who was a catechist, wanted him to be in the clergy, so he was educated by Catholic missionaries in a seminary close to his village. It was their hope that he would become a priest, but fortunately or unfortunately, that didn't work out as planned. At the age of 16, he was dismissed from the seminary. He did his secondary education at the Lycée Général Leclerc in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, and due to his brilliant results, he obtained a scholarship to study at the Lycée Louis-le-Grand in Paris. From the Lycée Louis-le-Grand, Biya proceeded to study at the Institut des Hautes Études d'Outre-mer in Paris, where he studied public law and political science. In 1961, he graduated with a higher diploma in public law and was admitted into National School of Administration in Paris. Upon completion with his studies in Europe, Biya returned to Cameroon and tied the knot with Jean-Irene. Though they didn't have a child together, Jean-Irene Biya adopted Frank Biya, who was born from a relationship of Paul Biya with another woman. After the death of Jean-Irene Biya on the 29th of July 1992, Paul Biya married Chantal Biya, 37 years younger than himself, on the 23rd of April 1994. They currently have 2 children, Paul Biya Jr. and Brenda Eyinga Biya. You may be asking, how did Biya end up as president of the Republic of Cameroon? His political journey. After Paul Biya returned to Cameroon, he was immediately integrated into the Cameroonian government. He rose to prominence after becoming Director of Cabinet of the Ministry of National Education in January 1964 and Secretary General of the Ministry of National Education in January 1965. He was named Director of the Civil Cabinet of the President in December 1967 and Secretary General of the Presidency in January 1968, while remaining as Director of the Civil Cabinet. Few months later, he gains the rank of Minister, and in June 1970, he gains the rank of Minister of State while remaining Secretary General of the Presidency. Due to his political intelligence, hard work and connections, Paul Biya became the Prime Minister of Cameroon on the 30th of June 1975, following the creation of a unitary state in 1972. In June 1979, a law was passed designating the Prime Minister as the President's constitutional successor. Ahidjo unexpectedly announced his resignation on the 4th of November 1982, and Biya, according to Constitution, succeeded him as the President of Cameroon on the 6th of November 1982. After Biya became president, Ahidjo initially remained head of the ruling party, the Cameroon National Union. Biya was brought into the Central Committee and Political Bureau of the party and was elected vice president. On the 11th of December 1982, he was placed in charge of managing party affairs in the absence of Ahidjo. During the first months of Biya's succession as president, he continued to show loyalty to Ahidjo, but in 1983, everything changed and a deep rift developed between both Biya and Ahidjo. Ahidjo went into exile in France, and from there he publicly accused Biya of abuse of power. Amadou Ahidjo eventually resigned as the party's leader, and Biya was voted in as the new president of the Cameroon National Union on the 14th of September 1983. In November 1983, Biya announced that the next presidential election would be held on the 14th of January 1984, an election that had been previously scheduled for 1985. He was the sole candidate in this election and won 99.9% of the votes. In February 1984, Amadou Ahidjo was put on trial in absentia for alleged involvement in the 1983 coup d'etat. He was sentenced to death, but Biya later commuted his sentence to life imprisonment. Biya survived a military coup attempt on the 6th of April 1984, following his decision on the previous day to disband the Republican Guards and disperse its members across the military. Estimates of the number of deaths range from 71 to about 1,000, according to the government. Northern Muslims were the primary participants in this coup attempt, which was seen by many as an attempt to restore the group's supremacy. Biya, however, chose to emphasize on national unity and did not focus blame on the Northern Muslims. Ahidjo was widely believed to have orchestrated the coup attempt, and Biya is thought to have learnt of the plot in advance and had taken action to disband the Republican Guard as a reaction, forcing the coup plotters to act earlier than they had planned, which may have been the crucial factor in the coup's failure. Biya initially took some steps to open up the regime, leading to a presidential decree to legalize opposition parties in 1990. According to official results, Biya won the first multi-party presidential elections held on the 11th of October 1992 with about 40% of the votes. The second place candidate, John Frunze of the opposition party SDF, officially received about 36% of the votes. The results were strongly disputed by the opposition for electoral malpractices and fraud. In the October 1997 presidential elections, which was boycotted by the main opposition parties, Biya was re-elected with 92% of the vote. He was sworn in on the 3rd of November. Biya won another 7-year term in the 2004 presidential elections, officially taking 70% of the votes. Although the opposition alleged widespread fraud, Biya was sworn in on the 3rd of November. After being re-elected in 2004, Biya was barred by a 2-term limit in the 1996 constitution from running for president again in 2011, but he sought to revise this to allow him run again. In his 2008 New Year's message, Biya expressed support for the revision of the constitution, saying that it was undemocratic to limit the people's choice. The proposed removal of term limits was amongst the grievances expressed during the violent protests in February of 2008, amongst others, such as the increase in fuel prices. Nevertheless, on the 10th of April 2008, the National Assembly voted to change the constitution to remove term limits. Given the vast majority of the ruling party in the National Assembly, the change was overwhelmingly approved with 157 votes in favor and 5 opposed. The 15 deputies of the SDF chose to boycott the vote in protest. The change also provided for the president to enjoy immunity from prosecution for his action as president after leaving office. In the October 2011 presidential elections, Biya secured a seat term in office, pulling 77% of the votes. John Frunze was his nearest rival, pulling 10%. Biya's opponent alleged the electoral results were fraudulent and procedural irregularities were noted by both the French and US governments. In his victory speech, Biya promised to stimulate growth and create jobs with a program of public works which would transform the country to a vast construction site. On the 3rd of November 2011, he was sworn in for another 7-year term as president. In 2018, Biya won the presidential election with 71% of the votes. The election was marked by violence and low voters' turnout. Opposition and criticism. Biya haven't always been the most popular and likable president in Africa. His rule has been marred with a lot of criticism and opposition, dating back as far as the early 90s. To begin with, he has been criticized for holding on to power for too long. He has also been criticized for making very few public appearances. Biya addresses the country twice a year, on the 31st of December, where he gives a resume of what has been happening in the country and also future plans, and on the 10th of February, where he addresses the youth. Biya is most often than not referred to as the absentee landlord, as he sometimes travels out of the country for months on both public missions and private holidays, where he spends millions of dollars. Biya has also been criticized for not providing a long-lasting solution to the Anglophone crisis that has been ongoing in the country for more than 3 years. The last presidential election in Cameroon witnessed a lot of controversy and demonstrations which led to massive arrest of civilians. Biya is said to live a lavish lifestyle where he spends millions of dollars each time he spends a couple of days out of the country. According to reports, Biya has spent more than $200 million on private holidays throughout his reign as the president of Cameroon. He also has one of the most expensive presidential cars in Africa, which costs approximately $500,000 US. He is among the top 10 richest presidents in Africa with a net worth of more than $200 million US. As it stands, Biya is still the president of the Republic of Cameroon and the second longest serving president in Africa. His term of office will expire in 2025, where the next presidential election will be organized in Cameroon. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy the video, do well to leave it a thumbs up and share with your friends. Also, do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss any of our videos.
Vive le Cameroun.